So what's the new oil? Today we're going to dive into the hidden battle for the resources that will literally define the future of our planet.
Okay, picture this. You're thousands of kilometers from any land, and you go down, 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 4,000 meters under the water. What you'd find are these endless fields of strange little rocks. Now, these are not just any rocks. They are the world's largest deposits of manganese, nickel, and copper. Yep, the essential ingredients of our modern world. The potential value? We're talking trillions of dollars.
But here's the catch. All of this treasure is in international waters. So, technically, it belongs to no one. And yet, you have dozens of countries already fighting to claim what could become the new oil of the 21st century. It all boils down to one fundamental question. Who really gets to own the future?
To really get what this modern gold rush is all about, we've got to look back in time. Because, as history shows us, the greatest empires are always built on the control of one single key resource. I mean, think about it. Ancient Rome's power? It was financed by its control of the Via Salaria, the salt road. Back then, salt was the strategic commodity. You needed it to preserve food. Then you have Great Britain, which fueled its entire industrial revolution and global empire with coal. And of course, in the 20th century, the United States became a superpower by mastering the flow of oil. So it kind of makes you wonder, what's next on the list?
Well, the answer to that question isn't buried in the sands of the Middle East. It's actually inside the device you might be watching this on right now. We are talking about the battery revolution.
And right at the heart of this whole revolution is the lithium-ion battery. It's become the most dominant energy storage technology on the planet. It's this small but mighty powerhouse that runs our entire modern life, from the phone in your pocket to the electric cars taking over our roads.
And every single one of these batteries has two key parts, an anode, which is usually made of graphite, and a cathode. Now that cathode, that's the secret sauce. It needs a very specific cocktail of 4 highly sought-after metals: lithium, cobalt, nickel, and manganese. You control these, and you control the 21st century.
To really wrap your head around the scale of what's happening, let's just follow the numbers for a second. Your smartphone, it has about 3.5 grams of lithium. Doesn't sound like much, does it?
Okay, now let's jump up to a laptop. The amount of lithium you need for that, it leaps to between 20 and 50 grams. So you can see, the scale is already starting to ramp up pretty fast.
But here, this is where the demand absolutely explodes. A single electric car needs up to 50 kilograms of lithium. Now multiply that by the millions and millions of cars hitting the roads, and you start to see why this one metal has become so incredibly important.
So as the demand for these metals has just skyrocketed, one country has been quietly, methodically positioning itself for complete and total dominance. Let's break down China's grand strategy.
The reason for this strategy, well, it was really born out of a sense of vulnerability. See, back in 1959, China discovered this huge oil field and became energy self-sufficient. But then its economy just exploded and everything changed. By 1993, it had to start importing oil. And by 2021, that import bill hit an astonishing $208 billion. That's a massive strategic liability. They knew they needed another way.
So what did they do? Well, for starters, they began to corner the processing market. Take a look at cobalt, a metal that makes batteries stable. Most of it is mined in the Democratic Republic of Congo, but a staggering 70% of it gets processed, you guessed it, in China. And it's the exact same story for nickel. It doesn't matter where it's mined, Australia, Indonesia, Russia, a full 75% of it ends up in one country for processing: China.
And then you have graphite, which is absolutely essential for a battery's anode. And here, China's production just dwarfs the rest of the world combined. It's not even a competition. It's a near total monopoly.
But just processing these materials wasn't enough for them. They went straight to the source. In Australia, which produces half the world's lithium, a Chinese company now owns 51% of the most productive mine. In Argentina and Chile, Chinese companies control major extraction operations. And in Bolivia, which has the world's largest proven reserves, guess who won the key contracts to develop them? Yep, the Chinese.
Okay, so what's the real-world result of this decades-long strategy? Let's take a look at the geopolitical endgame.
The economic impact is just staggering. The average price for a Tesla is about $45,000. Its main Chinese competitor,
A company called BYD sells a comparable electric vehicle for half that price, just $22,500. That's the kind of power you have when you control the entire supply chain. And this puts just immense pressure on legacy automakers. Take Volkswagen. Their flagship EV, the ID.3, sells for $35,000 in its home country of Germany. But to even have a chance of competing in China, they are forced to sell the exact same car for less than half the price, just $16,600.
And the core reason for this advantage? It all comes down to vertical integration. That Volkswagen ID.3, only a third of its components are sourced locally in China. A Tesla Model 3 does better at 68%. But the Chinese BYD Seal is made with 75% of its own components, all sourced from a supply chain that it completely controls.
There's this quote, often attributed to Lenin, that just perfectly captures the strategic outcome here. For decades, the West pushed and pushed for a transition to green energy to reduce reliance on oil and gas. But the result has been a brand new dependence, a Chinese monopoly on the resources, the technology, and the final products of that very green revolution.
Which brings us full circle, right back to those mysterious rocks at the bottom of the ocean. The battle for the resources on land, well, that might be decided. But the next battleground is just starting to come into view.
So what about all that treasure on the ocean floor in the Clarion-Clipperton zone? Well, right now, it's still untouched. It's just too deep, it's too difficult, and it's way too expensive to mine. But it's sitting there, a strategic reserve for all of humanity, just waiting for the moment when the resources on land become too scarce or maybe too politically costly to get to. And make no mistake about it, as the world's population grows, our demand for energy and technology is only going to accelerate. Which leaves us with one final and pretty provocative question. Far from being over, is the great global race for resources actually just getting started?